And Ben is known for talking really, really fast. Like when you listen to his podcast, it sounds like it's already on 2.5 speed without you doing anything. I'd like to meet the person who listens to Ben Shapiro's podcast and speeds it up. And what that does is that gives the appearance of a level of intellect that may be a little disarming to people. So, Ben, since you don't seem to think that race has anything to do with the income gaps or the inequality, and you want to blame things like they're not educated enough, or their families don't stay together, or they're not pulling themselves up by their bootstraps and there's no personal responsibility. If that's what you're going to blame this on, I need to tell you some things. But I feel like I should say them in a way that you will understand it. The average white family currently has a net worth of $919,000, but black families, it's only $140,000. Gaps in wealth between black and white households are due to accumulated inequality and discrimination over several years, as well as differences in power and opportunity that can be traced back to the beginning of our country, with things like Freedmen's Savings Bank, which left 61,000 depositors losing $3 million, or the violent massacre, which decimated Tulsa's Greenwood district, also known as Black Wall Street, back in 1921. They lost millions of dollars, along with discriminatory policies throughout the 20th century, including the Jim Crow Black Code, which, by the way, limited resources in African-American communities in the South, promoted redlining, which prevented blacks from buying homes. All of that means that from 1934 to 1968, 98% of federal home loans were provided to white families only. That's 98%. So for 3 decades, white families in white suburbs were selling their homes to other white families who were approved for new home loans, and those families were selling their homes and buying bigger homes using the equity from those other homes they sold to other white people. That wealth brought in businesses, increased jobs, hair salons, grocery stores, opportunities, and access to resources, inheritance, land, property. Everything's passed down, better funded schools, higher paid teachers, and additional education and after-school programs, which perpetuated that success. And by the way, that also removed white kids from the streets, making them less likely to be arrested. Now, don't get me wrong, efforts by black Americans to build wealth can be traced all the way through American history, but those efforts, you see, they were impeded in a host of ways, which only started with 246 years of slavery. But it was followed up, you see, by congressional mismanagement of the GI Bill, which exempted agricultural and service occupations, which disproportionately affected minority communities because they were already struggling to survive working those jobs. And by the way, a recent study from the Corporation of Economic Development notes that it would take 228 years for the average black family to amass the same level of wealth the average white family holds right now. There are over 8 million white homes who have millionaires, but less than 300,000 black homes do. In 2016, the Forbes 400 had a combined net worth of over $900 billion, over 37% of the total net worth of America. Yet, every single one of those people at the top of that list were white. So, whether you want to count the last 400 years, the last 100 years, the last 50 years, we have set minorities up to fail in this country, and you want to hold them to task for personal responsibility because race isn't the problem? Well then, what the hell is it, Ben?